For the first time in TMPM history, I have created a meal that 1. Could be considered a salad, and 2. Is meant to be eaten cold. It has been hot here in Austin, Texas the last few weeks, and these sweet chili noodle bowls have been a perfect refreshing meal to counter the heat. But before I show you how to make them, let's talk noodles. The type of noodle that you use in this recipe is important. If you pick the wrong kind, they're going to dry out in the fridge and suck by Friday. I think that these sweet potato glass noodles are the best choice for this meal. They have a wonderful texture with a soft bite, and they won't dry out after being prepared. I got these ones at my local Asian grocer, but I've also seen them at Central Market and on Amazon. I'd highly recommend getting your hands on these to make this recipe. To prepare them, I take 10 ounces or 275 grams, place it into a large bowl, and pour boiling water over the top to help them soften. Then I make sure the noodles are completely submerged, and instead of walking 8 feet behind me to get a spoon, I just use my fingers to push them into the water that was rapidly boiling 5 seconds ago, because the 4 seconds it would take me to go get a utensil clearly isn't worth having feeling in my fingers for the rest of my life. Next up, you'll take 2 pounds or 908 grams of boneless, skinless chicken breasts and cut them or pound them until they are of even thickness throughout. Because they make mutant-sized chickens these days, you've got to do some work to the meat to make it easier to cook. I'll usually take a knife to them first to cut into 2 or 3 pieces depending on how thick they are, and then I beat the shit out of them with my fist because I don't have a meat tenderizer and my hands are already chickeny. Now, I don't normally meal prep with chicken breasts because thighs are much better after being reheated, but because this meal is meant to be eaten cold, chicken breasts are actually preferred. Once all of the chicken has been cut into about a ½ an inch in thickness, season both sides with salt and pepper, and add 2 tablespoons or 24 grams of gochujang on top and coat each piece. I think the best way to do this is right on the cutting board so you don't have to dirty another bowl with the chicken juice. Just toss them around with your hands until all of the pieces are coated and red. To cook the chicken, I use the air fryer, but you can cook it any way you like. The air fryer is an easy way to get nice browning and flavor without having to babysit it too much. I love my air fryer. It's the one cooking item I have that I use every single day. Place the chicken into the basket in a single layer, spray the top with a bit of oil, and air fry at 400 Fahrenheit or 204 Celsius for 8 to 10 minutes, flipping halfway. For the pickled carrots, make a brine with 1 tablespoon or 12 grams of sugar, 1 teaspoon or 3 grams of salt, and then equal amounts of vinegar and water. I usually start with about a cup and a half or 360 grams of each, and then add more later if needed. I always make a big batch of these pickled carrots because they'll last in the fridge for weeks and they pair well with lots of meals. You'll only need about 2 carrots worth for this meal, but preparing 4 to 6 carrots at a time is my usual amount. To make them, I just take a vegetable peeler down the length of a carrot to create ribbons, and then I put these into the brine. I would recommend making these the night before so that the carrots have time to sit in the brine, but because I know many of you aren't going to want to do that, at least give them 30 minutes. If you don't have enough liquid to cover the amount of carrots you made, you can pour in some more water and vinegar in equal amounts, put on a lid, and move it into the fridge. Around this time, your chicken should be finishing up. Remove it from the air fryer and set it on a clean cutting board to rest while you finish cooking the second batch if necessary. Once all of your chicken has finished cooking and rested for 5 to 10 minutes, you can cut it into thin slices. Allowing that chicken to rest for a bit before cutting into it should help it retain some of its juices. At some point while the chicken is cooking or resting, you'll probably have some time to start cutting up your vegetables. Take the leaves off of 1 head of romaine lettuce and wash and dry them. I do a little cut around the top because sometimes lettuce has these little brown spots that you see here, and to be honest with you, it kind of creeps me out. I already hate lettuce so much that all I need is the tiniest excuse for me not to eat it. The light could hit it the wrong way, and that would be enough for me to say, yeah, you know what? Actually, I think this might belong in the trash. And that's a little something I like to call sensory issues. So you can chop that romaine lettuce up into thin salad-sized pieces until you have about 2 cups or 125 grams worth. Next comes the red cabbage. Now you don't really need a whole lot of this. It's going to be the same amount as the lettuce, so 4.5 ounces or 125 grams worth. If your store has the pre-shredded stuff in a bag, that is likely best, or you should try and find the smallest little baby cabbage that the store has to offer, or else you're going to have some left over. I'm only going to use about 1/4 of this one, and I want it in the recipe for the pop of color. So if you don't want to buy one for that small amount or care for the color contrast, I get it. Just double the amount of lettuce or get green cabbage, it won't make a huge difference. The last bit of cutting is to chop up 1 seedless cucumber or 150 grams worth into thin slices, and even though this is supposed to be a seedless cucumber, there are still seeds in the center, which drives me up a wall. Don't call it seedless if it still has seeds in it, and that couldn't be any more obvious. I think we can all agree that whoever named this a seedless cucumber deserves to be jailed. I scoop out the seeds with a spoon because these are super watery and I don't want that in my final dish, and then I chop the cucumber into thin slices. Our final bit of prep work before we construct each dish is to make the vinaigrette. Into a bowl, add 1/4 of a cup or 60 grams of some kind of light oil. I'm using avocado oil because it was on sale at the store, and that's the only reason why I chose it. Canola, vegetable, or a light olive oil will work just as well. Then you can add 1.5 tablespoons or 23.5 grams of sriracha, 1.5 tablespoons or 23.5 grams of vinegar, 3 tablespoons or 45 grams of lime juice, 3 tablespoons or 36 grams of sugar, and 1 teaspoon or 3 grams of sesame seeds. Put a lid on your bowl or jar and shake it vigorously for 30 seconds or so to emulsify the fats with the lime juice and the vinegar. You'll want to store this dressing apart from the other components of the dish, so spread out 5 ramekins and divide the dressing evenly between the 5. Now we can begin to construct the final dish. Drain the water away from your noodles and pass a knife through them a couple of times to shorten them up and make them more manageable to eat. This recipe is going to make 5 servings, so lay out 5 of your meal prep containers and add a layer of noodles to the bottom of each to start construction. If you want to weigh these and get it exact, go for it. I just eyeball because it won't matter in the end. Next comes the chicken. Divide it evenly 5 ways and add it to one side of the meal prep containers. This is a high volume meal, meaning it's going to be a tight fit, so if you want things to look nice, try to pack some of these things in tight. Then you can divide the cucumbers, cabbage, and romaine evenly. Once everything is inside of the containers, make a little room in the corner to add a ramekin of your vinaigrette. Now at this point, I'm looking at this dumb meal and asking myself, what's going on here? Why does this not look the same as when I tested this recipe? And that's when I realized this.
God damn it, I forgot the fucking carrots! You're the dumbest boy in all the land.
So don't forget the carrots, because now I have to figure out how to add them to this already full dish and still make it look nice. As I had mentioned earlier, you'll only need about 2 carrots or so for this recipe, which should be about 125 grams worth if you made extras. Each one of these sweet chili noodle bowls has about 569 calories and 37 grams of protein. You can play around with the amounts of noodles and chicken that goes into this recipe if you wanted to bump up the amount of protein. I would add less noodles and more chicken if you wanted to keep it about the same amount of calories. Lid up each of the dishes and move them into your fridge for the week. These will last for up to 5 days, and I would absolutely not recommend freezing this one. Lettuce does not do well in the freezer. Whenever you are ready to eat, pull a meal out of the fridge, pour the dressing over the top, replace the lid, and shake it up until everything is well combined and evenly dressed. I usually add a bit of salt and pepper as well, but I forgot to do that before I shook it up, so here I am adding it after. You may have noticed that there wasn't any seasoning happening to the vegetables in the preparation part of this recipe, and that is on purpose. You don't want to add any salt to these raw vegetables before you are actually ready to eat them, because it will pull water from them and leave you with a soupy, watery mess at the bottom of your meal prep containers. Waiting to salt until you're ready to eat will help to keep the vegetables crisp and dry. This is such a perfect summer lunch. I've been eating it as my post-workout meal this past week where the temperature has been in the hundreds, and the combination of being hot from my workout and from the heat usually means I want no part of hot food. So if you are like me and you don't want warm food, or maybe you don't have a microwave at work to heat up any meals, give this one a shot. I've put a link in the description to where you can find the written version of the recipe on my website, as well as a link to the sweet potato glass noodles in case you can't find them locally. As always, I love to see when you guys recreate these meals, so if you decide to make this one, snap a picture and send it to me on Instagram @TheMealPrepManual. That's all I got for you today. See you next week.